where we can all together proclaim the joy of spreading peace, the joy of loving one another, and the joy acknowledging that the poorest of the poor are our brothers and sisters. As we have gathered here to thank God for this gift of peace, I have given you all the prayer for peace that St. Francis of Assisi prayed many years ago. And I wonder, he must have felt the need what we feel today to pray for. I think you have all got a paper with you. We'll say it together. Lord, make me a channel of your peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by forgetting self that one finds. It is by forgiving that one is forgiven. It is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. God loved the world so much that he gave his son, and he gave him to a virgin, the Blessed Virgin Mary. And she, the moment he came in her life, went in haste to give him to others. And what did she do there? She did the work of the handmaid. Just serve. Just spread that joy of loving through service. And Jesus Christ loved you and loved me, and he gave his life for us. And as if that was not enough for him, he kept on saying, love as I have loved you, as I love you now. And how do we have to love? To love in the giving. For he gave his life for us. And he keeps on giving. And he keeps on giving right here, everywhere, in our own lives and in the lives of others. It was not enough for him to die for us. He wanted that we loved one another, that we see him in each other. That's why he said, blessed are the clean of heart, for they shall see God. And to make sure that we understand what he means, he said that the hour of death, we are going to be judged on what we have been to the poor, to the hungry, the naked, the homeless. And he makes himself that hungry one, that naked one, that homeless one, not only hungry for bread, but hungry for love. Not only naked for a piece of cloth, but naked with of that human dignity. Not only homeless for a room to live, but homeless for that being forgotten, being unloved, uncared, being nobody to nobody, having forgotten what is human love, what is human touch, what is to be loved by somebody. And he says, whatever you did to the least of these my brethren, you did it to me. It is so beautiful for us to become holy through this love. For holiness is not the luxury of the few. It is a simple duty for each one of us. And through this love, we can become holy. Through this love for one another. And today, when I have received this award, I personally am most unworthy. And I, having avowed poverty, to be able to understand the poor, I choose the poverty of our poor people. But I am grateful, and I'm very happy to receive it in the name of the hungry, of the naked, of the homeless, of the crippled, of the blind, of the lepers, of all those people who feel unwanted, unloved, uncared, throwaway of the society, people who have become a burden to the society and are shunned by everybody. In their name, I accept the award. And I'm sure this award is going to bring an understanding love between the rich and the poor. And this is what Jesus has insisted so much. That's why Jesus came on earth, to proclaim the good news to the poor. And through this award, and through all of us gathered here together, we are wanting to proclaim the good news to the poor, that God loves them, that we love them, that they are somebody to us, that they too have been created by the same loving hand of God, to love and to be loved. Our poor people are great people, are very lovable people. They don't need our pity and sympathy. They need our understanding love. They need our respect. They need that we treat them with dignity. And I think this is the greatest poverty that we experience, that we have in front of them, who may be dying for a piece of bread, but they die with such dignity. I never forget when I brought a man from the street. He was covered with maggots. His face was the only place that was clean. And yet that man, when we brought him to our home for the dying, he said just one sentence: I have lived like an animal in the street, but I am going to die like an angel, love and care. And he died beautifully. He went home to God. For death is nothing but going home to God. And he, having enjoyed that love, that being wanted, that being loved, being somebody to somebody at the last moment, brought that joy in his life. And I feel one thing I want to share with you all. The greatest destroyer of peace today is the cry of the innocent, unborn child. For if a mother can murder her own child in her own womb, what is left for you and for me to kill each other? Even in the scripture, it is written, even if mother could forget her child, I will not forget you. I have curved you in the palm of my hand. Even if mother could forget. But today, millions of unborn children are being killed. And we say nothing. In the newspapers, you read numbers of this one, of that one being killed, this being destroyed. But nobody speaks of the millions of little ones who have been
Hello, I'm Joshua William Gelb, and welcome to Theater in Quarantine. It's Monday, December 14th, and it's 9 o'clock here in New York City. Thank you for tuning in and joining me tonight for the late show of I Am Sending You the Sacred Face by Heather Christian. It's been a little over 8 months since I converted the closet in my East Village apartment, measuring 4 feet wide by 8 feet tall and only 2 feet deep, into the digital performance laboratory that we call the Theater in Quarantine. Now, with co-creative director Katie Rose McLaughlin, we've been expanding our roster of incredible collaborators, as well as institutional supporters like La Mama, Culture Hub, the Invisible Dog Art Center, and of course tonight's co-presenter, Theater Mitu. We developed tonight's performance as part of Theater Mitu's Expansion Works, which is an ongoing program that creates space for artists to work across disciplines and incubate alternative modes of artistic inquiry. Now, this is an opportunity for Theater Mitu to invite and involve their community in the process of experimentation, and to actively engage audiences in interrogating how we define theater and how we best share and articulate the stories of our time. Now, we've been so thrilled to be a part of this program, and so thankful to Theater Mitu for their support and collaboration. Now, tonight's performance runs about 40 minutes, and afterwards, I'll be hanging around with our collaborators, Heather, Katie Rose, Dito, Crit, Ada, Stivo, and Justin, to discuss the process of making this show. And we'll also answer any questions you might have, so be sure to drop them into the chat. Also, Heather's music will sound even more magical if you listen on headphones, so grab them if you got them. Now, below in the description, you'll find a link to our Fractured Atlas page where you can make a donation. All donations go directly to tonight's collaborators, so please consider helping support this work and the artists who make this work possible. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so we can reach our 1,000 subscriber goal by the end of the year. We're getting very close. And one final reminder that what you are about to see is live. Now, this is not a film or a pre-taped broadcast. This is happening right now in this closet in my apartment, as my neighbors can likely confirm for you. So let's get started. Now, I'm going to take a brief 1-minute break so I can get into places and, well, you can get your headphones. Thank you again, and enjoy I Am Sending You the Sacred Face.
Open patent taten taking open pa. 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 Open patent taten taking open pa.
Desires are mosquitoes, not bites. That sorry you want will also cost you bracelets. Somewhere we're taught we lose ourselves when we lose the things we like. Then we repeated it until we proved them right. Nihil habitans et omnia possidentes. So I only speak for me as I am in the world, not of it to choose poverty, who love it for its clarity. I like my rotten bulgur, I delight in days of hunger. I like patching over my old two saris. I wear shoes that do not fit me, stink and sweat, refuse a fan, a phone, a TV. Praise my lousy bed and head and hauling company. To work on poverty, to me you must be poor. My commonality with those I serve gives dignity, and equal at their eye they come to us to die, with the dignity of friendship, with an uncontested equal. Nihil habitans et omnia possidentes. Nihil habitans et omnia possidentes.
Open patent taten taking open pa.
You say the poor like they're one thing, like they're a theory and a herd and not a people that outnumber you, not individual lives with crazy stories, moms and uncles, similar struggles, same intentions, different means. How many people have you alchemized to numbers? How many voices did you mute behind the comfort of your screen? Poverty is not a plague, it was not sent by God, but engineered by human systems. He won't fix it, that's your job. Oh, poverty's no plague, it was not nature who bestowed it, but our selfish raised ambitions that will bother God and works of it. Poverty's no plague, it's not a thing that simply happened. It is ours, and every second that continues passing while you are not offering your hand. Yes, your real hand is a waste of time. And time is unforgiving. So time is not like God, they say. Nihil habitans et omnia possidentes. The message of my life. That was it. It would be rude and misleading of me not to start with that. To do otherwise would be bad dramaturgy, as that is the message here painted on the outside of this vessel. Yes, vessel. This is a well-made vessel, custom built to relay that message to you. The reason you got it was not because I thought it, but because I became it with theatrics. Be the change you wish to see in the world as a kind of drag, the outfit matters. But just so we are clear, it was not posturing. I truly believe this message to be objectively true. Poverty is an exalted state. I treat the poor with dignity as befits this exalted state. From a religious perspective, the poor are closer to wisdom. I do not treat the poor with dignity out of pity or compassion. I treat them with dignity as an act of reverence. The poor are not just equal to you. From a religious perspective, they're better. Now, I I was not born poor. I chose it along with this outfit. There is symbolism in the outfit, always. Some people call that marketing. You remember me when you see this outfit. And what do you remember? Me, the person? No. My dreams. You remember my dreams. This outfit affords me that kind of subliminal messaging. It's a teeny tiny phone call to a surfing synapses in your brain. Hello. Now there is additional symbolism in the outfit, which I will enumerate here. Faith is the inner tunic and is a brilliant white, the brilliant white of teeth, of the smile. This is a white so brilliant it is supposed to put out the eyes of the intellect, which is fabulous. Now over this white tunic of faith one puts this blue trim, this blue coat of mail. Blue is hope, by which one is defended, see, and also liberated from the thing that it ultimately represents, the world. More on that later. Blue hope is an armor and covers the whole body top to tail with no openings save for a little visor which allows the soul only to look heavenward and nowhere else. More on that later. Now over the white and over the blue as a finishing touch, one puts on the precious robe. This is charity. This is what everybody sees when they see you after being blinded by your smile. This is what you drag down the street. This is both the drag and what is drug. Yes? Now, let's talk about calls. I experienced a call when I was quite a young girl. My first call, that is. Which is the call to be a nun. This is an understated call. An intuition laced with a desire. Most nuns and monks you speak to will tell you something similar, like a phone in your heart. The phone's in your heart with this kind of call, yes? The second call I received was different. This was a phone in my face. This was an actual voice in my face that I received when I was truly not expecting it. On a train. The voice of someone who did not sound at all like anyone I'd ever met and was urgent. This was an urgent phone call from inside my face that I received while riding a train, and this was the call that got us here tonight. Me from wherever the heck I am, and you from wherever the heck you are. Somehow, serendipitously, in the same place. This is where it started. He said, "Your heart was ever drowned in sorrow as my mother's." I said, "I stand with the mother. I dress as your mother dressed and perform her always." He said, "Will you not show me?" I said, "I will show you like this. I stand with the mother, as the mother, all right always." I promised him as such. That promise is a cup that I fill with my work and my love and my minutes. Go now to the poor. This conversation frightened me. Go now to the poor. God was testy. This is what was hard to bear. God did not make requests of me, he dared. And when I paused, "Will you not?" Like a child who's been neglected toward the dry arms of his father. "Won't you go ahead and try me? Will you not?" Not will you, not can you, not may you. Will you not? Not won't you, but you probably will not. I did try to stop the thoughts. I tried to be in silence. I could not. It came on booming. In a train car to Darjeeling. Will you not? Then every morning after, there's a panic in my memory. Go now, go quickly. Will you not? What is asked is just as natural as it is supernatural. Will you not? The voice lives in two places at once. In the train car at 80 miles an hour, impossible. Will you not? And in the traveling space between the drums of my ears, as love made ghost, made clear, and argumentative. Go now to the poor. Why do you not? I say my answer lies with priests who know much better. Then you won't. Was this my first act of cowardice? I am too young to decide. Is obedience cowardice?
Every day you do not leave passes in darkness. 100 pass in agony today, will you not?
Ultimately, the church would not consent till I could promise it success. But what is this success? What is success in matters of the hopeless?
What now?
So let me go, I said, tormented. Success is just a silly word that you invented. My doubt lived as an oily film on a well of my conviction. Deep enough to where no skiff could drop an anchor. My doubt floats at the top, but all the same pollutes the water.
Forgo caution, child.
When God asks for things, people are careful about details. When society asks for things, they are done quickly.
Forgo caution, child. Will you not?
This thirst is infinite. This is a thirst I rush to put out like a trillion fires in 1,000 neighborhoods. I can't find them all in time. Quenching won't be possible.
Don't let that ease your mind. Just because it is untenable does not mean that it's not your calling. Will you now?
Okay, now, 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 okay, now. And in the beginning you are vain. God has spoken to you through a telephone in your face. But a soul canoe don't float. A soul canoe don't float. If you want divine perspective, you got to get up off the boat. Don't you strain at your brother's neck and then swallow your own camel. Don't you claim that your brother's whack with a soul that's still a gamble. You will know you're a beginner if your rapture is a show. If you're public and you're pleased now to let everybody know. So it's not nice to be suffered, not to punish you, but bolster both your real legs to the parapet. If your legs on a pride trapeze, God will run loose the net. There is competition, even in virtue. I will not hide from you that I have had my share of wanting to be the best at something. I was proud of my humility in the beginning. Are you? I ask that without an agenda, as we are 2 songs in now, so we are officially friends. Be the change you wish to see in the world is a kind of drag. I already said that. What I wanted to see more of in the world was humility. So, I became that change in order to fulfill my wish of seeing it. For most folks, humility is pretty unappealing. For one thing, you only get humility by acquiring humiliations. Nobody likes that, except for me. I accept humiliations. I am grateful for them. I call them my sweetie sweets. My smile is a cloak, not a coat. It doesn't keep me warm, but covered. It doesn't protect me, but you. It's a part of the outfit. And furthermore, it doesn't interfere with humility. I just wanted to be a nun, really. Ordered, submissive. I never wanted to be a leader. Being a leader requires a certain level of belief in oneself, which is a whisper's breath from pride, which is a different kind of cloak, one that protects me and not you. And I wouldn't abandon anyone like that. Abandonment is an awful poverty. Abandonment is what I call a second wound. The first wound is a given. You will be wounded in this life, but the second wound is one that comes just after it and lasts a very long time. That second wound is a wound of no one was concerned. I was wounded in the first place. I'm telling you this so that you can do your best to make sure that you aren't opening these second wounds anymore. Anyways, in the end, I wasn't taught the reality of feeling unloved and unwanted by others. I was taught that by God. But patched clothes are no disgrace. It's the same with spirits. Is loving your system the same thing as loving your breakfast? Don't answer that.
If you get the voice, you get it once. The voice has other ports of entry after that. Did you know, girl, when you heard it, it would never speak again? That it would leave you iron flat against its silence.
Being the change you wish to see in the world is kind of a drag. My soul is out of its onesie, isn't coddled, is big enough to be put down, weaned, made to eat a bread with a crust. That is St. John's explanation for this silence. And now my soul is exposed, it is ready, prone to oxidation and a forceful gust of wind. And there are raptures and transports, a dislocation of the bones. I annihilate myself and strike this room of everything that was not part of the vessel. I'm the manger, I'm the cup, and I am ready. I am empty, 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 I am empty. The living image of the saint is one of horror, of a mouth open and gaping at its own husk in the mirror, surrounded by their own sleep, spiders eviscerated in their own webs, attacked by stronger giants, while they patch their robes with wash rags or rub ashes into paper cuts. I annihilate myself and strike this room of everything that was not part of the vessel. I'm the manger, I'm the cup, and I am ready. I am empty, 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 I am empty. Saints do not practice self-care. We practice self-annihilation. If I was to publish The Idiot's Guide to Self-Annihilation. It would be short and likely not your favorite book. It would go like this. Page 1. First item. Seek out some suffering and then appreciate it when it shows up. It is hard to explain this to a modern person, this want of suffering. You cannot look at it with what you call your right mind. But without suffering, the work we do is social work, which is good and fine and helpful, but nothing to do with your soul, in my opinion. Anyway, the work is not yours. Page 2. This would be a blank page, followed by another blank page. And then there would be a page where I drew a single marigold. I really like the reminder of a marigold. They're named for Mary, you know, who is a true example of watching and feeling and continuing to stand upright. She blooms unseasonably. Where am I? Page 5. The second item. Once you have located your suffering, give a purpose to it. Give it to someone. You got no one to suffer for? Alright, suffer for me. Imagine that every time you lose your breath, or you cry out in pain, that it is an offering in a lunchbox of my energy, and I collect it through the air. And this is how I go on. Because of you. Your suffering has value. Anyway, the work is still not yours. That's the whole book, guys. I don't want to see my face anymore. It's a thing I use. It's not part of me, really. I don't want your candles. I don't want your stuff. If it's not abundantly clear, I am keeping this room vacant in expectation of... Well, anyway, he won't come unless the room is spotless. Excuse me. Hello?
Good morning and God bless you. Is this Mother Teresa?
Yes, I suppose it is.
This is an automated telephone service very official as to the nature of the progress within your calling. Please press 1 to comply. Welcome. Please answer the following questions with brutal honesty in order that we may fully assist you with your current station. Question 1. Do I really receive Holy Communion with faith and love?
No.
Question 3. Do I value the salvation of my soul?
I don't have one. There's nothing in me.
What are the dangerous occasions of mortal sin to which I am exposed?
My eyes.
A what?
Dangerous.
Because of the distraction from
Because
God.
of the Exactly.
Working. Thank you. Do I desire to be poor with Christ's poor?
With my whole heart. I am not humble, but I am too small to be proud. I pray fervently to be forgotten, to be ignored, to be nothing to anyone. And this is how my prayer has been answered. Why are you laughing? Anyway, I do keep on saying the same prayer.
Do I avoid trying to shine in front of others?
I don't understand that
Do I accept
question.
desolation as ready as consolation?
I...
Do I accept dryness in prayer as a grace of God?
No, nothing inside of me.
Is there anything you would like to add, Mother Teresa?
Tell him I'm sorry. Ask him to give me the face of a smiling child.
Why is that my job?
Because he doesn't speak directly to me anymore. Hello? Hello? In a marriage, some things are kept private, kept even from the children. I cannot explain this part to you. So why unload the cart? I am undefended. I live undefended. The only shield I've got now is my quiet, and that isn't for myself. May my promise be a chalice I can pour into it lots of things, like minutes, like sweat, but not thoughts, 'cause thoughts are of the self. And I am emptying the cup of myself. I am undefended. I live undefended. The only shield I've got now is my smile, but I don't give that to myself. Tell you, let's just see what happens when a modern woman gives herself completely to be a blank space. Will it keep her on her knees to see what's emptied from the cup of herself? A cup by nature won't track what it spills. A cup has two states, filling and emptying. I am in service, I have no actions of my own. One might say I was purified of human alloy. One might say I was ready to enter the deep things of God. One might say I was terribly unkind to myself. One might say I was unable to look at the whole picture. One might say I was never able to understand the whole picture. I have given myself to the small, to the one life at a time, for the one last breath and its qualities. I am undefended. I live undefended. I smile at this cardboard box that's getting filled with all kinds of important things. Big things I do not understand. It's a veritable box of treasures, and the plainness of the box won't mean it cannot bear the weight. I always said, if they ever tried to canonize me, I would want to be known as a patron saint of darkness. That I would not take my reward in heaven if it turned out that heaven was in fact a meritocracy. I said I would stick behind here. No thank you. I would stay, to be a friend to those who also go through this. And as luck would have it, here I am, behind the bookcase of reality. And I have kept my promise to you. That's pretty wild. And one must observe from this vantage point that the living world is in fact a peach. Is the fleshy, peachy peach part, sure, has worms, also has a fuzz, has rind. And that rind is the peach's container. And maybe that rind is actually divinity, and I, or, we are here in between the two. Isn't that marvelous? Oh well. I did not do a very good job of giving you a biography. It's all quite sentimental, actually, in retrospect. And sentimentality is disordered. I abstain from it. Oh no. Oh, we're wrapping up. Wait, but I just realized I have a lot to say, actually, as it turns out. Oh, these are medieval dramatics, aren't they? My particular darkness was a medieval darkness done to a modern woman, so it was quite a show. Suffice it to say, I am an expert on this niche subject matter, and I am here to be the mother of your house. For anyone who's had a particularly hard go of it and thirsts for understanding, for the care of an older woman who loves you and has been there and has anecdotes. Child, think about where you were a year ago. I mean, okay.
This is not a trial by fire, this is renovation by fire. You know fire. Fire when applied to wood dehydrates it and turns it black and brittle, makes it ugly, makes it sink. But the wood, if submerged now, wouldn't sink. 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 This isn't a trial by fire, this is renovation by fire.
Everyone is called to be a saint. We have, compatible technologies, but we prefer different uses, to put it lightly. Furthermore,
drying out the wood expels these dark and ugly accidents contrary to the fire. Fire turns the wood into itself in a task without desire. Makes it then perform its action, so the wood is dry and dry, so the wood is hot and heats. Fire changes all it eats into itself. You are lighter and a light. You are brighter than before. 'Cause it is not a test by fire. This is not a trial by fire. This is renovation by fire. This isn't a trial by fire. This is renovation by fire. This is not a trial by fire. This is renovation by fire. This isn't a trial by fire. This is renovation by fire.
we will not be able to talk about this when we emerge. So let's hold on to it now. We are beholding an object never before seen in itself or in its likeness, so we won't describe it well. And even if we could, God would hold our tongues, or physics would screw around with the math. Because unlocking the divine mysteries means you have to unfix your brain and step outside of time. And when you step outside of time, we won't be able to talk. Simple as that. Grammar is temporal. All you'll be able to say is, like, do you perchance know the paths of the great clouds or the perfect sciences? And you'll go, everything is a miracle, yes? It's a miracle that one does not dissolve in one's bath like a lump of sugar. Wisdom is an abyss. Love has a simpler science. Not all is lost. Your prayer will be short if you understand that. Oh God. That's it. That's all you get. Oh God. The earth shook and trembled. Your way is in the sea, and your paths are in many waters, and as such, your footsteps will be washed quite away. And when I say I'll smile for you anyway, it costs me, it's an offering. A symbol works best when you put it in the room. The fact that I actually lived does not make me less of a parable.
Sabat mater dolorosa juxta crucem lacrimosa dum pendebat filius quius animam gementem contrit statam et dolentem per transivit gladius sancta Mate istudagas crucifixi fige plagas cordi meo valide.
And when your new soul arrives on the doorstep of the new world, don't be like the children of Israel in the desert, who when they were given manna craved onions from before the war. Let yourself get unused to how it was. The night will wipe your memory if you let it. Let it. We will not be going back.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming. And thank you all joining us tonight, tuning in at the 9 p.m. show. I'm Joshua William Gelb, and you just watched I Am Sending You the Sacred Face by Heather Christian, presented by Theater in Quarantine and Theater Mitu's Expansion Works. Now, in just a few moments, I'm going to bring all the collaborators in, and you can answer ask any questions you'd like, and we're happy to answer them. Just put them in the chat. And oh, it's so sweet to see all of you. Oh, thank you. And I also want to mention that this is the first time here at Theater in Quarantine that we are attempting to do something of a run. Usually we just do one night only. But this show, since we are actually pushing to an every 3-week schedule as of now, we are trying to see if maybe a run fits in there. So we're actually doing shows, 2 tonight, of course, and then a show on Wednesday at 9 p.m. and a live show Friday at 9 p.m. And we hope you'll help us spread the word on, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you got. TikTok. Yeah, you TikTokers. So thank you. Again, I'm going to try and get everyone in on Zoom. Hopefully this will be as painless as humanly possible. Again, if you haven't, please subscribe to our channel. And if you are in the mood to donate, please go to our Fractured Atlas page. The link is in the description. I am very close here. I just have to... Oh, it's all set. Let me get my video, though, in place. Oh, come on. Because then once I do this, I get to get some water and maybe a bourbon. All right, we're very close. Again, I want to thank you all, and I want to thank the creative team of I'm Sending You the Sacred Face, who I believe are appearing right here. Hold on one sec, Katie Rose, because I totally I grabbed my headphones. Oh, I left them over there. I ripped that corset off as fast as I could. But here, Katie Rose, can you just give me a little hello from uptown?
Hello.
Hi. This is working, so I'm going to go into performance mode. Getting there. There we go. And hopefully the stream will get a little bit better. Hi, everyone. Hello. Oh, Ada, what have you got?
I have some kind of a variation on a sour with an olive leaf liqueur rinse.
Now we are talking.
Very delicious.
So first things first, I'm going to go get me one of those or whatever equivalent I can muster.
Yes, we deserve one.
In the meantime, I just want to say, or just offer to please introduce yourselves. And Katie Rose, if you wouldn't mind starting things off. All right.
I would love to.
Thank
Hi,
you.
I'm Katie Rose McLaughlin. I'm the co-creative director of Theater in Quarantine, and I also choreographed this piece. Heather.
Blah, muted. Hi. I'm Heather Christian. I wrote it and I guess performed because all of the voice is mine. Crit.
Hi, Crit. I was a design brain in this space and was so excited to work on it. Ada.
Hi, I'm Ada Westfall. I did some sound design. I mixed all of Heather's recordings and added a couple of musical elements. I'm going to pass it to Justin Nestor.
Hi, everybody. My name is Justin Nestor. I'm the co-artistic director of Theater Mitu and running the Expansion Works program this year, and excited to be working with Theater in Quarantine again. So thank you all for that.
Yay. So happy
Lost
that you're
an eyelash.
Just one?
Oh,
Just
hey, everyone
one
got
eyelash?
quiet. What happened?
You said I lost an eyelash, and then I asked you if you.
Well, I
asked
did
you a
lose an
question.
eyelash. That happened.
Just one though, not two.
No, one I got.
Sometimes it happens.
Hey, Tech Notes, I'm having trouble with my left earbud. It was tricky. I was only in one earbud the whole show. That was rough.
Interesting.
Yeah. Tech note.
So-
Writing it down.
Couldn't tell. Bravo.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
good job, Josh.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's, a delight getting to do it twice in one evening. And it's like you're exhausted for some of the parts and you find new things and have more fun in other parts. It's like a really insane journey in this closet. In a way, I don't know if we've ever experienced this kind of transformation. Like, we've transformed the closet, but to transform within the span of a performance, I don't think we've really done that before, and that's really exciting. So I'm sure we have lots of. Are there questions? Are we doing?
There's some pretty great questions.
Well, Katie Rose, start it off. Let's go.
So I'm going to start actually with the first question that I see, which is Rebecca Tyree says, Heather, where can I find more of your material? I am entirely enchanted.
Yay. Thank you. I don't know how to give a charming infomercial, so I'm just gonna say all the crap. I have a bunch. I have 10 records on Bandcamp. So if you go to Bandcamp, heatherchristian.com, you can find all the stuff there. And during quarantine, I've been releasing one song that I have buried. I have a whole archive of orphans. So I'm releasing one song a week over on Patreon. And that's Patreon. Just type in my name. You'll find it. I have a newsletter. I'm working on a website. I got hacked by a Viagra company. So I'm building a new website.
Oh,
no. But once that is up, you'll be able to see all the other stuff that I'm doing when live theater comes back online. In the meantime, it's just the digital stuff and the recorded media. But thank you for asking and being interested.
And thank you, Heather, for being interested in joining us here. Can you tell us a little bit about how this whole thing came about?
Yes. So I saw that you were doing this. I saw a random Facebook post that you said you were thinking about maybe doing a musical. And I'm a triple Virgo, so I keep a document on my computer of every idea that I've ever had for a show. And a lot of those ideas just don't merit a full evening of thought. It's like the idea I know is not going to be sustainable for 2 hours or whatever, or it's not something that anyone is interested in. So I cold called Josh and Katie Rose and was like, I've got all these orphans. Can we have a conversation? Maybe I can flesh one out in a couple months. And they bit, and I'm the luckiest person ever. And that was just an idea that existed, and that idea that existed was Mother Teresa the musical.
And there was nothing written before then.
No.
Wow. Well, speaking of, there's a question from Misha Chowdhury. Heather, I'd love to hear what source materials you did or didn't draw upon for this work. So moved.
Ooh, I love you when you ask about source material. You just scratching my nerd itch. I actually have them on this table. I was more interested in reading the private writings of Mother Teresa and letters that she sent, correspondence that she sent that has not been published before. So the book that I drew on the most was this Mother Teresa Come Be My Light, which is collected writings, private things that she sent people. It's sort of a stranger portrait when you put it up against the books that she actually wrote. You start to see that this one is No Greater Love, and I took a lot from this one. But I read like 5. She published a lot of books. And then because within these research materials, I've discovered that Mother Teresa is on record for experiencing the longest dark night of the soul ever recorded. Her dark night of the soul clocked in at over 50 years. It never really lifted before she died. So I was like, why do we call it that? Where does that term come from? So then I also read The Dark Night of the Spirit and the Dark Night of the Senses by St. John of the Cross, which is a Spanish work from, I believe, the 1300s. So there's a lot of that in there as well. What I didn't use was a lot of her public writing. I felt like the public face is so seen and so known that we could sort of start there and assume that we all knew what she was about. Yeah. I don't think yeah, that's it. Have I gone on long enough? Was that enough?
We could listen forever.
Yeah.
So we have, well, Ezra, this isn't a helpful question. I'm sorry. I love you, Ezra. How? Just, how? Crit, I'm going to send that one to you.
How? How? Well, how happened about 3 weeks ago, and then we have lots of time together working through really amazing, complex material and sort of all putting brains at it. And Heather and I've got to work before together, and one of the things that always is so exciting to me about what she proposes is that it's lots of questions upon questions. There's very rarely something that's just like, this is what it is. It requires sort of a lot of depth and complexity. And so there's like, I feel like we put together this amazing version of it, but that we could also put together like 5,000 other amazing versions of it. And I'm also feel like there could be a lot of other, that each audience member hopefully brings their own sort of picture into it at the same time, which is so interesting. And yeah, just combining a lot of really exciting images like triptychs and GIFs or GIFs. I always get confused. And colliding, I think, from a design perspective, colliding a lot of textures and images that are, to me, in tension with each other. So things that are very opulent and sort of refined against things that are really kind of cheap or kitschy. To me, one of the very first design impulses that we felt excited about was covering your closet in Mylar tinsel. And that's is still one of our favorite gestures, or my favorite gestures. And that is such a great material, and has now taken on this whole physical life, but it also has such a relationship now with, I think, the digital space. So I don't know, that was some howness out into the universe.
That's perfect. And Justin, I'd love to throw the how question to you as well, because you've been involved in a bunch of these at this point. Justin, for just a quick summary, Justin and I go way back. But Justin was one of the first people to help me out with the technical end of things back in the spring, and was just extremely influential on and taught me Isadora effectively. So Justin's been around, and it was just a really wonderful opportunity to get to work with Theater Mitu this fall on both Notes for an Enumerator in September and of course, or October, no idea, and of course this tonight. So Justin, take it away.
The how was my favorite part. I'm like the capital H how. I find that to be a really kind of robust creative space for me, particularly as we delve into what is really unknown territory, this kind of virtual, digital, remote performance where we don't share space, but we share time, ideally within subscale-ish, 20 to 30 seconds. There's a lot of pieces at play. There's video design happening in Isadora that ultimately speaks to some sound programming that's happening in QLab. It's networked together that then sends everything over to a second computer that then streams it out into the world over to you. And there's a lot of other little pieces in there. But I think, for us, the most exciting part of the how actually hasn't been the how to build the production or the thing that you are viewing, but actually how to make in this space. In many ways, what you're viewing is probably close to kind of how we view theater. We sit, in this case, maybe we wear some headphones and we watch. But the making process and the how to devise a system for collaborating remotely, I think has been the most difficult, but also the most rewarding. I think there's some of those systems that will stay with us even when we return to in-person performance. So it's been quite an exciting experience, and really kind of sits with the mission of Expansion Works at large, which is about expanding our practices and learning to work in different ways and expanding our community. And Dito.
Here, I have to make sure that Dito's in frame, but yes, everyone's in frame. We're good.
Good. So I find how to be a really exciting part of this, and sort of devising a system, building a form that can be a good vehicle for the content. And that to me is a really exciting challenge. Dito, welcome.
Thank you. How did it go?
It went so good, Dito.
Yay.
Twice. It went so good twice.
Well, you were having some rough dress rehearsal. So that's the old saying, came true. Bad dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
And now everyone's drinking. It's good.
Not our worst dress rehearsal. Oh, what have you got? Is that Pinot or Chardonnay or what?
Sauvignon.
Oh, Sauvignon. Oh.
Why not?
Delightful.
Are we asking each other questions?
Well, we can ask questions. We're also answering questions in the chat. So, do you have a question?
Do I?
Do you want me to ask you a question? Well, okay, a big question that came up in the previous talkback, and we will get to you, all of you, don't worry.
Can in Dito answering this question, can he also introduce himself to our larger?
Well, I think it does seem to work out that way with this question, which is people were asking, what is drag dramaturgy? And, I think it would be wonderful to hear from our drag dramaturg.
It's a new course of study that you can study in college. No, I don't know. I was called on this mission because Heather Kristen was real nice and was like, will you come and tell us things about drag queens? And I am a drag queen, but I'm a really weird drag queen. So maybe I'm perfect for the job. But I'm not a drag queen who lip syncs. So that was something I had to pull from my other sources. But I guess I know a thing or two about what makes a lip sync drag performance interesting or weird or fun. I guess, I don't know. We talked a lot about the kinds of lip syncing. What else do we talk about?
We also talked a lot about embodying. I feel like you are really instrumental in helping us build this Josh's Mother Teresa drag performance.
Yeah, I was very excited the day that you brought in the sari, you had made this sari out of a sheet.
Out of a sheet.
And I was like, okay, now I see her, and yeah, I find her very beautiful. But I guess what I find interesting, and maybe it's what relates to my kind of drag, is that there's kind of this vibration between seeing Josh underneath and him sort of embodying this character, and then we sort of forget that it's Josh and we say that it's Mother Teresa in our head. So I think what's really interesting about this performance is how you, as an audience member, you can flip very quickly between those two modes of watching it. Sort of the mode where you're like, oh, I'm seeing this person try to embody this character, but I also see him reaching to enact her or embody her, and then sometimes I'm like, oh no, that's just Mother Teresa. So it's sort of an interesting thing, maybe in all drag performance, where you're like, oh, there's like there's a vibration always in the performance.
That's wonderful. I mean, I think about I love that you talk about reaching to embody her, because there is a sort of embedded failure in that, right? Like that you can't, and she's a saint. She's literally a saint.
She's a saint.
So you can't embody her. It's impossible. I mean, we have a question. We'll get back to the choreography question. That's coming next, KR. Just a heads up. But a question about, like, were there materials that you found helpful to connect you with the fabulous character? But, like, that's, of course, we watched, like, about 10 seconds of Mother Teresa talking, and she uses her arm a lot. Her left arm a lot. We know that. But in some ways, like, yeah, you know, Heather would talk about, like, the Julie Andrews version of things. And so I was like, oh, yeah, there is a Mary Poppins at the beginning. There's, like, that perfect, I'm perfectly perfect in every way, right? And then at the same time, there's, like, the failure of me seeping through trying to become that. And so, you know, sure, we're, you know, bits of lip sync pop in with some of the phonography. And of course, I think the GIFs that Grit was talking about was truly instrumental. You know, like, that was the breakthrough, I think, for all of us. We found these, and you can dig through Google and just look up GIFs of Mother Teresa, and then you can go further and do the Virgin Mary and all of them. But they're ridiculous. These, like, glittery, wonderful, like, they're drag in and of itself. And, it speaks to the way that, you know, whatever the Catholic Church may believe in certain, instances, the performativity of the church cannot be denied. And so it all kind of adds up in a really fun way. And so I think that's what we were working with. Also, does everyone like my green jumpsuit, which I'm wearing again?
Yes.
Thank you.
Always have.
Nice. Thank you. Katie Rose, now is the time to speak about your inspirations for the choreography.
I would say my inspirations were basically everything that sort of we talked about. Heather is sort of a wealth of information about Mother Teresa, and sort of being very open about her inspirations for making this piece, I'm the type of choreographer that just sort of like things just sort of seep in, and I like put them in, like, store them in different places in my body, and then they just sort of come out. And so I feel like that I was heavily influenced by that. Also, Dita was sharing a lot of reference material, but also some like Caravaggio paintings, like Undefended, and like specifically was like deeply influenced by those paintings, the idea of light, in like how the body sort of presents itself to the light, which also sort of references, when did we start talking about Martha Graham? Was it when Josh first put on his makeup?
I think it was the sheet and the makeup.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we were like, it's ballet makeup. He had done these little like curly cues at the end. But your eye makeup, you needed no prompting. You just were like, I'm going deep and hard.
Well, luckily it's a little more refined now that we have actually someone who knows what they're doing.
But you will never lose that purple blue situation that's so lovely.
It's so good. When you just like walked off camera for about 20 minutes and then just like came on like full face. So good.
Thanks, Mom.
Where did that makeup come from, Josh?
What?
Where did your makeup come from?
It came from my mother. Some of it was very old. But you know what? Jean Lou, who's the makeup artist who actually is working on the piece show, and Jean Lou got the blue turquoise that we use on the eyes, and we still use it, and said it was great makeup. So I trust Jean Lou.
He said it's great makeup. And how old is it?
I don't know about that. But, I mean, I'm gonna go on a limb and say at least 20 years.
All right, don't try this at
How
home.
old am I? No, 15 years.
You're supposed to throw out makeup in like a year at the most.
Yeah. And even if you don't, you're definitely not supposed to put it near your eyes.
Oh yeah,
That's a safety dramaturgy.
At least we won that spirit gum argument.
Don't worry, we're not equity, so it's okay. But the spirit gum,
in a very MacGyver moment, was like, I will use this 1976 spirit gum to apply my eyelashes. And we both were like, we can't physically reach you because we're on Zoom, but we want to stop you and tell you that will land you in the hospital.
it wouldn't be the first time here, but you know.
No, it would not.
So let's go back here though, because a good question that Ezra brings up, and Ezra, this is interesting from Ezra. What is a dark night of the soul, Heather? Speak to that.
So first of all, it should be known that in order to become canonized in the Catholic Church, you have to check off this like checklist of things that you did while you were alive, things that you've done while you're dead. It's a whole bunch of stuff. Some of them, like we know, like you got to perform miracles, you got to, live a holy, selfless life. One of them that is not widely known is that you have to have experienced a dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is, as it specifically pertains to religious, is a period wherein God stops answering you, and you are filled with the sensation of being ignored, outcast, that God is displeased, that God is ignoring you, but you still have within you this desire to do all of the work that you've set out to do, but you are filled with nothing. It's like a couple steps down from depression. It's a couple steps down from everything is meaningless. It's an obliteration of faith. And this is a necessity if you are going to become a saint, that you have to go through this and come out the other side. And I have been saying, ironically, for the last 8-9 months, that we are all collectively going through a dark night of the soul right now in our own ways, and in different areas of our lives. For me, it is quite spiritual, but I'm that way. So when I started to read this, I was like, well, she's had the longest durational dark night of the soul of any person on record. This is a pretty long dark night of the soul for all of us who are not religious people. So she would be a good person to talk to about how to endure it and why enduring it is a holy act. That's a long-winded answer, but I hope I answered your question.
Well, I feel like you answered the question both about what that is, but also like why now, which I think is an important question, and is something that Josh and I talk a lot about, is nowness, but also liveness.
Yeah.
Oh, liveness and nowness is a fascinating conflagration of ideas.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'll write it down.
That's for 3 weeks from now. But so let's see. I need to get another bourbon. That's for certain. But there is. So yes, Sonia. It was the whole thing in the last few months. Heather wrote very quickly. She's insane. We know.
It's therapy. It's therapy. It's like this. It's not that I'm ambitious. It's that I'm crazy. That's
Oh, Ezra says donating now to Fractured Atlas so you can afford new spirit gum.
Thank you, Ezra.
Thank you,
Nice.
Ezra.
That's
It's a
nice.
real.
Thank you,
I have
Ezra.
a really big old bottle though, and a bunch of beards from like high school productions of Fiddler on the Roof. So like something's gonna come of it.
You could also just throw it away.
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm not a hoarder. I'm not, but it's starting to feel like I am. What did you learn about your relationship to your own spirituality through the process of working on this show? And let's throw that to anyone who wants to answer that. And again, mind you, Ezra, that we did this in 2 weeks, really. Like, Heather approached us in August, and Heather, Crit, Katie Rose, and I began meeting a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, in order to actually start working out a general sense of storyboarding or inspiration of what it might look like. We knew that Theater Mitu was going to be involved from a couple months ago, but then Justin brought on Ada and Stivo, and that really started, I think, 2 weeks ago Saturday, right? And so in that respect, it's the concept of our spiritual relationship is a funny one, right?
I have something.
Yes.
Where to start? So I and a bunch of members of Theater Me Too actually spend a lot of time in India, and somebody was texting me earlier that the marigolds make us miss India very much because you see them on shrines everywhere, and a lot of the research and source material were Mother Teresa's tomb and a lot of shrine imagery and altar imagery, and so spending all this time in India, we've become very familiar with kind of Hinduism and a lot of Indian spiritual and religious practices. And one of the first ways I was introduced to Hinduism was being introduced to the idea that the practice is reflectory. So the idea is not that Ganesh or Shiva or Vishnu existed and walked the earth, but rather that they are a more enlightened version of yourself. And I've always loved that, and it stayed with me for a long time. And so it was really kind of mind-blowing to associate that with drag, which is something that I had never thought of as this idea of like looking at this sort of more perfect version of yourself, and then sort of merging that with Mother Teresa and saying, oh yeah, there is, I mean, to what Dito was saying, that sort of vibration space of recognizing that Josh is in the attempt, right, that is reaching for a better self, a higher self, despite how flawed that version may be. That was my big revelation, that in fact this whole piece is this altered version of a possible better version of ourselves through drag. I loved it.
I think for me, it was exciting to, like, I come from a very deeply Catholic background and sort of experience growing up, and I feel like I don't often have the opportunity to sort of interrogate the symbols from that part of my life, to interrogate the figures from that, and to combine it, even though like art is very much a part of the religious tradition in my family, that to sort of explore questions about doubt and questions about performance of faith, and to think about that in context to my own relationship with my own traditions in my past versus my own artistic making now, that felt very like a compelling space to be in, especially because of also this time where making is so much a part of doubt. I feel like for myself, so much doubt in the work that I'm making right now.
Now, it's actually funny because, I mean, Crit and Ada, I know you've done nun shows before, like fairly recently, in the before times, we'll call it. Like, so to what extent has, like, is there a, where I'm referencing In the Green at LCT3, which the two of them both worked on, and I'm fascinated by the differences between this medieval, Hildegard, and Trish, Terry, Mother Teresa. The differences between the embodiment and also, like, Ada, for instance, did all the mixing of this, and I'm fascinated by the process of, like, what it means to be doing this all digitally versus actually working in the room with live musicians.
Yeah, well, I mean, put it this way: both this and In the Green were I think, like, journeys into brains, and in both cases they were, for, I'd say, the group of people working on it, a journey into the brain of the person we're talking about, be it Hildegard or Mother Teresa. But I think personally, for me, it has felt a little bit like a journey into the brain of Heather Christian and a journey into the brain of Grace McLean. For me, the big difference being that In the Green, because we were playing it live, obviously we're setting things down on paper, but it sort of becomes more like Grace had suggestions of parts or like, iterations of parts that became more about, like, figuring out how this group of musicians interprets that, versus this, which I thought was so cool and enlightening, pun intended, sure, in that recorded music is really such an imprint of it has, to use a different print word, it has like a fingerprint on it that like written, that sheet music doesn't in the same way. In that sheet music says this is how it goes, but it's really about how you play it, the interpretive musician. And in this case, I'm inheriting sort of set in stone audio that Heather's created, and it's funny. I was very transparent with Heather up front. We had a phone call 2 weeks ago where I was like, I'm gonna be real with you. People have been telling me for years and years and years that I would love your shit, and I've never, ever really encountered it. And so, hi, here I am. Like, apparently you're great, and I'm gonna find out now. And what was it's such an intimate way to get to kind of meet someone's mind, because it's not just how Heather composed the music, it's also how she's decided to lay it out in a session file. So some of those songs, particularly like the first two, the kind of the top and the end of the show, the bookends of the show. In some cases, Heather had up to like ballpark 60 tracks in a song. And
wow,
and it was really such a lovely way to get to like visit, I don't know how else to say it, but like to visit your brain and to encounter not only the I was going to call that surface level is the wrong word, but I'll just go with it. The surface level of like what we all hear when the mix is done, right? Which is you hear the melody Heather's chosen, you hear the rhythm she's set it to, and you hear the word choice she's made. But what you don't get to hear, because my job as mixer is basically to take all those 60 tracks and go, and here's your sandwich, is you don't get to see how she's parsed that out into individual parts, and also hear the individual emotional performances on each take. So when you hear all those beautiful backup vocals going, singing rapid fire text, like I've actually heard each one of those voices of Heather's singing in singing it over and over on different pitches. And you really start to realize that like a recording like that, especially when it's done by someone as talented as Heather, who basically plays and sings everything, you realize that like the reason those backup vocals become so powerful is because it's actually 8 emotional interpretations of that text living on top of each other. And all 8 of those emotional interpretations of that text are living, all have like the extra condition of that they're supporting the lead vocal that Heather has laid down. So we have like the Heather that we're all kind of most listening to. But then the backup vocals, it's like, I had the distinct pleasure of hearing like what happens when Heather sings a piece of text and has to put it up in her falsetto because it's a high part and she's trying to float up on the top. So what does that do to the language versus, you know, when she's singing the most alto-y lowest part and how that sort of lives. And so I literally get to hear the same text delivered as you know, tenderly and then powerfully and all of these different colors. And that was a thing that like, not in any way to shortchange In the Green. That's a piece I'm like so beyond proud of and was so cool. But everything felt very like every time we'd play it, it was sort of like newly discovering and trying to hang on to different pieces and see if we could reproduce that each time. Whereas in this case, we're working with like something that's set. And so my job as mixer becomes like, how can I listen to all of the offers that Heather has made and then, you know, present them in a way that either in some way, like if I can leave them alone and make them clear, or if there's a way I can help add to the sort of vibe she's presenting with like dumb technical things. Like I'm going to pull up a delay and set it on an 8th note delay. And I'm going to have it, you know, extend for a certain amount of decay and pan it to the right so that it sounds like we're getting the message over here, but we're hearing it echo over here. Like, and so that's where my creative brain gets to come into it. So anyway, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm really answering your question anymore, but that's.
No, that was beautiful. Thank you. No, I started with nuns and we went everywhere. Go ahead, Heather.
That was like the most comprehensive, like breaking it down for people who've never been in a studio that I have ever heard. While at the same time, I feel like you threw me a tiny birthday party, and I will take it to my grave that is the kindest thing that anyone has ever. Because guys, what you don't understand is that when you give somebody your session files, that is an incredibly intimate act. That is like giving somebody a VIP pass to like not just how the song, but like how the song was written, like the day that the song was written, everything that went through your body, went through your mind. It's like sniffing. I told Ada like a couple days ago, it's like sniffing my dirty panties.
Yeah, I know. I felt so gross that I then acted it out on video and I was like, maybe. No, it's true. Like literally, because I'm soloing all the tracks, so like I can, you know, I hear like I literally. It was funny. I was talking to Justin about this. How like it's almost like an ASMR experience where like I'm listening to one solo track and you can hear not only like your performance, but then I hear all the moments in between almost the negative space between the positive space in which I can hear you taking a breath. Or kind of singing the next note to yourself to know what your next note's going to be. Or like, you know, whatever, you're like, a thing we do where you're getting your mouth ready and you hear a little saliva. And it's like so intimate, you know? And on the one hand, my job as a mixer is to like minimize the parts of that get in the way of the art. But I always feel, especially when it's with someone who is as intelligent a composer as you are, and whose music I enjoy so much. It's such a gift to get to like encounter compositions like this on such an intimate level, which is really exciting. And the funny thing is I'm not religious at all. I wasn't raised religious. You know, being a trans woman, I have like this weird, like deep distrust for it. I mean, also I grew up in LA. I ran into Scientology for a brief period. It's a whole other story. So I've just had this very like, and yet I keep ending up like doing shows about saints. It's happened to me so many times at this point, like Joan of Arc and then like In the Green and this and like, and so weirdly, I think my connection to the spiritual things that we're investigating is via that route, is almost like getting to hear, getting to feel a connection to something that I don't normally via someone else's musical connection to it, musical interpretation of it. So I feel like I understand something about Mother Teresa on a visceral level that I never did prior to this. I never would have bothered to investigate on my own.
It's so interesting hearing you. It's so beautiful hearing you describe it, because to me, I think there's also this kind of amazing technological relationship between what you're describing about the tracks or session files, and then the programming space of Isadora and Josh and you as this like central brain space. And so like in some ways it feels like what this process has been like stitching together tissue, like all of the layers it takes to like make a body. And that's like happening in the music space with all these layers. And then like, I don't even, Stivo, who's not with us, sent me like a tiny screenshot at one point of like one of the portions of the Isadora, which is the program that we use, or I don't use personally, but all of these amazing people in the team use to like do all of the video programming. And it's like a spider web, but like I had only saw this part, and the spider web is probably the size of my house.
Yeah, it almost like the way I think of Isadora, especially when you see a really complicated program like that, is it's almost like the synapses of a brain. You're almost looking at a brain, and this little synapse is literally, you draw lines between the modules so they know what to do when they talk to each other. And yeah, absolutely. It feels like a brain or a map or, dense information that's not presented linearly and yet spits out the thing we all just watched, which happens in order, which is crazy.
Yeah, which also gets me to Miro boards and stuff like that as well, but I don't know if anyone's interested. But I do want to answer one more question about nowness versus liveness. And maybe this is the last question, and if anyone has anything to say about that, I'm fascinated. We can also do last thoughts. So, get your last thought. Thinking. Nowness versus liveness. Well, I mean, I say this because like a couple hours before the 7:00 show, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out which millisecond would make it seem like it was most live, right? Like it was most coming out of my mouth. We put an audio delay on through OBS, which is what we use to stream to YouTube, as Justin said, because video is faster. Oh no, audio is faster than video. Hence, you need to put an audio delay on stuff. We've been usually using 500 milliseconds for theater in quarantine, just because we tried that once and it kind of worked, and so we kept that. As it turns out, that was maybe a slightly inaccurate. Or at least, an inaccurate way of going about it. Because when we did much deeper testing today, it was about 450 milliseconds that seemed closer to liveness. And so it's fascinating thinking about my voice coming out of my body, give or take 50 milliseconds, will pretty much buy that it's live. But Heather's voice coming out of my body, or my mouth, we will not buy 50 milliseconds. And so to me, that's liveness. And nowness has everything to do with content.
Same. I feel like liveness is like that's an essential thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that we are people who do things like performances where to a certain degree we have to shoot from the hip. Like it's live, it's an unchangeable thing.
Yeah.
If you're a body and you're doing something in real time, it is live. That's an unchangeable thing. Whether or not you are having a live experience of a live thing that is happening is a question that you've been coming up against, Joshua, which I find hilarious.
Well, maybe that's more important because, theater is nowness. Theater is now, right? If you go to the theater and you see it, that is nowness. Whereas digital theater, you're always stuck dealing more with liveness than nowness.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to, and some people argue whether or not this is essential or not, but like prove liveness, like hold up the newspaper and be like, yes, I'm being held hostage right now. That is, this is happening live. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone you can have a thought on that if you want, or we can do final thoughts.
I'll just say that I think liveness lives in the mistakes. And
there were some.
And that is what really differentiates it, because if it was a pre-made, video, we could have, within the time, the areas of time and space, like eventually you could pick the take. And to me, like having those moments of the imperfection make all the difference.
That moment when you lost your halo, when the halo came sailing down and you almost didn't get it back up and screwed in time, and then you nailed the next entrance, that's live. You're exactly right, Grit. That is exactly the thing. Because I literally jumped up from my seat and went, yes, yes.
All right, round of final thoughts, and let's call it an evening. And I'll get another bourbon and take a long deserved nap. Who's ready?
What some might call sleep at nighttime.
Okay, I'm going to throw it to Justin first.
Let's see. Final thought. There's been a lot of talk about time and the length of this process or these processes. And Katie Rose and I were having this. I've had this conversation a lot in the last couple of days. And in some ways, I'm grateful for these short processes where you have to kind of get as much out as you can in a limited amount of time, because you can't finish. You can't. Your list doesn't end. And so what happens is it kind of agendizes, for lack of a better term, a life's practice of art making, because you don't make it through your whole list. If I were, we say this a lot at Theater Mitu, but if I did it, if I got everything right at some point and I just made the perfect piece of theater or the perfect piece of art, I'd be done. That just seems horrible. That seems like a nightmare. And so it's nice to not have a finished list and to walk away with an imperfect system and to not quite know all the answers to the how in terms of achieving the perfect form for the right content. And so to walk away from this with a lot of lists and questions is really satisfying. So I'm grateful for the short time period.
Great.
I think my last thought would be, it was so exciting to be sort of in such a place of trust and in the making, and a place that could hold really wonderful arguments. Because I think so often both of those things don't exist, and they kind of require each other. And then to also walk away from feeling like there'll be choices that are made and that are not in control of, and that's also exciting. And to be like, great, and we'll like sail off into that space together.
Ada.
I think my final thought is a simple one, which is just that I think what I found so exciting about this process is that it makes me think toward the future, and all of the things that we can take from this into whatever a post-vaccine world looks like. And on the one hand, when we all whatever do, the shtick we used to do, and how can it not just be the thing we used to do? How, what are the? I think I'm asking myself, what are the qualities, be they interpersonal or technical or whatever, that can carry forward into our future processes? And I don't know. I also just think there's something so vital about this. Maybe it's partially what Justin's talking about with like having the constraint of a short time period, but I weirdly hope that like even when we're all able to go places and hug people and breathe on each other without murdering each other again, like I kind of hope that this format is here to stay as well, because I think a big question at the beginning of quarantine times in our community was like, is this even theater? And I think this proves like undoubtedly yes, this falls under the umbrella of theater, and it's just such a different and unique way to do theater. And I'm like just as excited about this as I have been about doing things in person. And yeah, I don't know. I'm so grateful for you all, and this has been such like I had no idea I'd even be doing this 3 weeks ago. So like this has just been such an unexpected and like wonderful and nourishing treat, and I just love y'all so much.
Dita.
I want to echo that and say that there was a lot of bad ideas that came from me that then were, but I felt like maybe similar to what Crit was saying, that there was a real atmosphere of both like, there's no bad ideas. It could be a great idea. Who knows? And there was a real trust in a lot of these people. How many of these people have I never been in a room with? 4, 5? Yeah. Like there was a real, Josh, I've never met you. And just the idea that there was such openness and willingness to explore, and there was an idea about the ending that was wrong, and we fixed it at the very last minute.
Yeah,
I love that. That's kind of one of the most exciting things about theater. You're like, oh, it's getting there, and then everyone's like, we know it needs to change, right? And everyone's like, mm-hmm. And I felt it even though we were not in the same room. We were like, we all know that that's wrong. But I'm glad we went down the false path, and that was part of what makes it a real process as opposed to just something cookie cutter.
Katie Rose.
I just want to thank everyone here for their beautiful work and beautiful artistry. It was such a joy and such a thrill. Also to get to work on a musical, like, oh my goodness. Like, it was just such a fucking treat. So exciting. Thank you to Justin for bringing a lot of new people to us, which is so exciting, and for supporting us through this process. Thank you, Ada, for just telling me all these things about things I didn't know anything about, which felt like a birthday present to me too, somehow. Thank you to Dito for, joining a bunch of people you had never met and just like jumping in with this like complete spirit of collaboration from the get-go. And Crit, it was such a joy. We haven't worked together in many, many years. So it was such a joy to work with you again. I like some of my favorite moments of choreography in this show were choreographed by Crit. So I just wanted to say that out loud.
Oh my God, that is true. That is true.
Yeah. And thank you to Heather for writing this incredibly beautiful piece. That I feel like, I mean, you said this already, Heather, but like, feels, speaking of nowness, feels sort of like a spiritual practice just to work on, especially in these incredibly dark times, has felt really powerful and really important. So I just like very much thank you as a human and as an artist for that. And also to Josh for just, all of it. Like this was really, really incredible performance from you, and just like we keep talking about it being a smaller show. Like we're not doing more than one closet. We're just like back to the basics, just Josh in a closet. And this is like by far our biggest show yet. Especially considering it's also just going back to Josh in his closet, which means that like there are no hands on him. So just, oh my goodness. Thank you.
Human, truly superhuman, what you've done, Josh.
Thanks. Thank you.
Final thoughts, Josh?
No, first Heather. Heather has to do final thoughts.
Oh, sorry, Heather.
So I think my final thoughts are, you know, I sort of went into this. I wanted to do this material because specifically I felt like saying that the experience of a dark night, the experience of this, you know, this period of darkness and waiting around for something to return had to have some sort of meaning. And I felt like I found that in my research materials, and I found like a conversational partner to like throw some shit against in Dead Mother Teresa. But in the process, what I didn't bet on, like I knew I had to write something very quickly, and that becomes very fun. You turn back into your 12-year-old self. I no longer was like the diva that like needed to have her lunch packed in a certain kind of Tupperware before she left to get on the train to go to rehearsal. I just started to be this 12-year-old who just needed to get anything on paper. And that was a holy experience, getting back to that place. And then coming into these rehearsals and feeling that youth and that play and remembering what it was like to be in a room full of other like multi-hyphenate strangelings. I remember that I have this spiritual home, and I have I mean, we are a huge community, the arts community, but it is our community. And it doesn't matter if I've never worked with any of you before. To a certain degree, we have brains that fire synapses in very similar ways. And that was a massive act of transformation and generosity, and pulled me out of a rut that I was in. And I just thank you. Thank you for taking the thing that I wrote on the backs of envelopes and toilet paper rolls, and letting me hot glue sequins onto things, and like, thank you.
And we put it into a closet. So,
And
you
put
know,
it
it all
into a
works out.
closet. Gorgeous. Yeah.
Thank you all. And thank you all for joining me tonight to talk. To those of you out there still watching, thank you. And to those of you who are watching, you know, in the future, as some do, you know, good on ya. Time is a weird thing. Speaking of time, time's up for us. And in 3 weeks, Theater in Quarantine will be back with like a whole new season of stuff. But also, we're going to be running this show for a couple more days. So on Wednesday and Friday, we're back. Which means please tell everyone if you loved it, you know, send out emails and post about it and things like that. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And again, my deepest love and thanks to all of you for joining me on, and Katie Rose and Theater Mitu, and, well, you know, joining each other ultimately, because this is all something, you know, we're doing out of love and just deeply in our own dark nights, craving the togetherness and the collaboration that of before, but also of the future. So we will not be going back, as it is said. Thanks again. Have a wonderful night, all of you. Stay healthy. You know, we'll get through the next couple months, I promise you, somehow. And, you know, either way, we'll be here. So you can catch us every 3 weeks. Thanks so much. I'm Joshua William Gelb. This is Theater in Quarantine. Have a great night.